the Harbor One hotline. Hey, Mike, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. Doing great.
I'm doing pretty well myself. I'm just leaving Granada, Spain, visiting my son over here, having some tapas and cervezas and enjoying the sunshine.
I thought you sounded
Yeah.
pretty chipper when you started talking.
Well, remember he told us he was going there to hang out with his son?
Yeah.
That's one I would love to visit Spain. That's on my list of countries.
Yeah, it looks
is it as beautiful as it looks?
It is. Madrid has majestic architecture and, a different taste. And Granada's even more so. A lot of, Arabic kind of influence in the architecture. And it's just an incredible place. And it's surrounded by the Sierra Nevada mountains. And you can see the peaks. Good skiing up there right now. My son said he was up there a couple weeks ago, having a heck of a time on his real hard study break here.
Well, you have to.
It's only costing me about $35,000 a semester.
That seems pretty reasonable. Are you able to get Nessun over there, or how does that work?
I haven't made much of an effort to get Nessun, but I'm following the stuff. A little nervous about when I see guys going down, and I'm not. They don't give you much to go on when the injury report comes up. Upper body, lower body. You just don't know. You just got to keep your fingers crossed. But at this stage of the season, trying to keep everybody healthy is about as important as anything else you do.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to say. Is you look at as we get closer to the playoffs, you look at things that might be worrisome, and is it more? You look at Pasta, Lindholm, Frederick. You look at the injury thing. Is that more worrisome to you, or is it the power play, which I think they're 0 for 10 when it comes to the power play? Part of that was Pasta being out the other night. But which are you more concerned about as we get closer to the playoffs?
I'm not concerned about the power play. That will run up and down, and it'll be tougher to come by probably come playoff time, but it'll sort itself out. And not having Pasternak in the mix is certainly going to set it back. But, we talked about this right from day one. Their schedule is so jam-packed, and they're right there to be maybe moving up in the standings, and there's a temptation to go to some of your big guys a little more often, but I don't think you can afford to do that. I think you have to spread out the ice time, do the best you can, keep everybody healthy, and let the chips fall where they may.
So, Mike, is it more? Is it more about than looking at the remainder of the schedule and going, all right, it doesn't really matter where we seed. It's about making sure the guys that are nicked up get the rest that they need. So, sitting those guys.
Yeah, it's. I don't know if you're going to sit them. Mm-hmm. That's kind of dangerous. I mean, that might send the wrong message, but it's still. And you might have to if you get to a point, obviously, where the seed is locked in. And let's face it, the seed it's not unimportant. I mean, at the top of the list, you got a pretty strong Florida team. Carolina looks tough to beat. Tampa's having some troubles now getting their wheels going in the right direction. You never know with the Rangers, they're up and down, but, you might want to avoid those first two guys. If your first two teams, Florida and Carolina, and Toronto now starting to heat up. So, I don't know. For me, I'm going to play 4 lines. I'm going to play 3 sets of defensemen. Try to spread out the ice time as much as I can, and then just see what happens.
Mike, will that 7-game stretch in the 10 days to end the season, will that be the final test for you if you want to still call them a pretender team or a contender? If they perform well during that time, stay healthy, should we start getting really excited about this team after that?
I mean, if they can get through that and they're playing really well, that's great. But that's a killer stretch for them. And that's really where they have to be careful. I mean, imagine you're going to get to the end of the season having played 7 and 10, and then you get, 2 days off, maybe 3 if you're lucky. Not much time to recover from that kind of marathon. But, I'm not going to judge them on that 7 and 10. I'm going to judge probably Bruce Cassidy more on how he juggles his lineup and keeps everybody fresh so that when they actually drop the puck in round 1 that they're ready to go.
Now, Mike, is it possible, because you've seen teams when they need to score goals where they double shift guys? So is it possible as a coach, does he say, okay, we're going to play Pasta and some of these guys, but maybe you might sit every other shift or something like that to try to allow them to still knock the rust off and not have them get rusty, but still not put them in a position where they're playing every single shift?
Yeah, I think if you use 4 lines and you spread it out so that each line is getting 15 minutes or so, I mean, that's really where you want to be. And I don't think you have to worry too much about the power play. You can let the 3rd line, 4th line have a little power play time if you want. But if it's not going well in the last 10 days of the season, then you have to start honing in on your problems and addressing them and make sure you get, the wheels are greased and everything's ready to go before the puck drops in the playoffs. So, I think it's just, when you see somebody like Lindholm, who's such a big acquisition, go down, not know where it is, and you see Pasternak go down, it starts to make me nervous. But that's the lay of the land come playoff time. You got to stay healthy as best you can, and I think maybe getting these guys back to 100% might be a good sort of wake-up call for everybody in the organization to make sure they give them the time off that they need.
Do you consider Swayman a problem right now? It's a little bit of a rut. I mean, he's young going into the playoffs to begin with, and then the last couple of games he's had a tough outing.
You're going to have some tough fighters. He's a young guy, but his personality, to me, seems such that he's going to be able to handle it. I mean, every young guy going into the playoffs has got to have some level of apprehension, some level of anxiety, but there are some, and Swayman seems to be one of them, who can really keep a cool head, and that's what they're counting on. But what we don't know is how he will react when the bullets are real in the playoffs. But I'm comfortable saying that I think he's going to be just fine.
Mike, what is it about the playoffs and young guys that is the biggest obstacle, let's say, for them, for a guy like Swayman, that he might have to deal with?
I think it's, the pressure is built up, and, it's tough to get your rest after games. You're thinking about the games, all day, the day of the game. You can run yourself a little bit ragged. You have to learn how to take care of yourself, obviously, physically. You have to get your rest, and you have to sort of monitor your blood pressure, make sure you don't get too up and too down, and just take it one game at a time, one shift at a time, and that's not always easy to do.
All right. Well, I imagine that the roaming charges are pretty intense over there. What?
$10 a day, anyway. And I'm off to Munich for some bratwurst and beers too.
Jeez,
jealous.
What a world traveler.
Living a good life, man.
When are you back?
I'm back around just after Easter time.
Okay. All right. Well, so we'll talk to you. Will we talk to you next week from Munich?
Yeah, sure. Well, no, I think I'll be in France by then.
Oh, wow. This guy's all over the place, man.
That must be nice.
Yeah, have one for me.
Retirement's not all bad.
All right. Can you give us a time check? What time is it in Spain right now?
It's 2:30.
2:30.
And beautiful. It's just a beautiful day. We're passing the olive groves on our way to the airport in Malaga, and we'll be in Munich in time for our nap.
Oh. Sounds great. That sounds great. All right, Mike Milbury, we will talk to you again next week. Thank you very much.
All right, I'll get the travel log going next week.
All right, sounds good. Oh, that's nice.
Wow.
Where else can you
jealous.
get hockey coverage in Spain?